Hey, how are you? So, what do you think about the war against the Islamic regime in Iran? Well, I think that there are a few clocks that are ticking and ticking until they're gonna reach to a point. And each one of those clocks, once it reaches to its final count, is bringing the end of the Islamic regime occupying and ruling Iran. The first one is the clock that counts how many launchers the Iranians have. Sooner or later, the number of launchers that they have will be limited until it's going to be zero, and they simply won't be able to fire any more missiles. There's another clock to how many missiles and rockets they have, and you need to understand that both Israel and the Americans are attacking those launchers and those missiles, and also the productions of the launchers and the missiles. So it's been reduced slowly and surely, and also from the get-go the number of missiles is limited. Right, and it's not that high. We assume that they have 2,000 missiles in total. We know for a fact that they fire more than 1,500 by now. So there is also a wild card that the Iranians are getting resupply of launchers and missiles from the Russians or from the Chinese or from other countries like Tajikistan, I heard. Maybe even from Pakistan or even Afghanistan. Now, there is another clock that many people don't even think about it. Some people dismiss it completely. But this is the clock of Arab countries. When will Arab countries join the fight against Iran together with Israel and with the Americans? Arab countries are being attacked by the Iranians. Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the Emirates, Oman, and Saudi Arabia, even Jordan are being attacked by the Iranians. And sooner or later, those countries will get to the point that they don't have a choice and they have to fight in order to stop those attacks, because the Iranians are relentless. Unless the Iranians will stop firing out of their own initiative to stop fire on the Saudis and on the Emirates, they already caused quite a lot of damage, particularly to Qatar and to the Emirates and to Kuwait. They should join the war against Iran, and once they will, it will be very helpful. Now, there is another clock. There is another clock that people dismiss a lot and don't even think that it's possible, and that is NATO or other allies of the Americans joining either the war itself or the protection of the marine travel in the Persian Gulf in general, literally sending ships. And first of all, NATO countries, some NATO countries, there's simply no reason for them not to join the war, particularly if they are good allies with the Americans, like Hungary, for example, Slovakia, Czechia, Serbia, for example, even Turkey, for example. I don't see any reason why they won't. Now, there are other countries in NATO, like England and France and Germany, that have the capacity to send forces, military forces, ground forces, and also marine forces to the Persian Gulf, and It seems very unlikely, but at least one of them will eventually do that, simply because of economic reason. Because the closing of the Strait of Hormuz is hurting everyone. Some countries are already affected, and some countries are already thinking right now, like Japan, for example, thinking right now about what to do in order to make sure that they're gonna get their oil regularly. And they see that Iran is acting crazy, so Iran might promise to those countries that are not directly involved with the war, like Japan, for example, but they're allies of the Americans and they are enemies of China, for example. So, and Japan is one example of that, and they need that oil. So they actually have a good case of actually joining the war, regardless of any other thing. So there is a clock of other countries which are not from the Middle East joining the war, and there is another clock. And that is the clock of the collapse of the proxies. All right. So Iran, in order to substitute its own missile numbers, it asked its proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, to fire rockets on Israel in order to make sure that Israel being bombarded constantly, in order to amplify the stress and the horror and the attrition against the Israeli people. So Hezbollah is basically sacrificing itself for Iran, because the Israelis are getting inside South Lebanon and they are kicking Hezbollah's ass over there. And basically it's right now completely acceptable in Israel that they're going to enter South Lebanon, and this time for keeps. Already about 70% of the population of South Lebanon left South Lebanon, and just like in Gaza and other places, you don't know when those guys gonna come back, if they ever gonna come back. So basically you just had a Nakba because of the Hezbollah in Lebanon, which by itself caused problems to the legitimacy of the organization that is actually ruling Lebanon. So one of the results in the short period in this regard is that Hezbollah is not going to rule Lebanon for a long time, and so this proxy is basically sacrificing itself, because Israel is going over there with everything it got, and Hezbollah in Lebanon don't have a chance. So this clock of the proxies is also it's ticking until it ends. And imagine that you have a situation that not only Israel and the Americans are attacking and bombarding Iran, and also attacking its energy facilities, maybe even taking over its oil production in the Kharaj Island, but also other countries, not just Emirates and Saudi and Kuwait and so on, but also Japan and the British. So they're losing their energy, their control over the Strait of Hormuz. They cannot sell oil because they need to fight with the Americans or the Israelis on the Kharaj Island that basically have most of the oil production of Iran. So they don't have any money. The country is destroyed, and this is a time where you can have an alternative rule like the Pahlavi or anyone else that is not the Islamic regime to come and take power. Yes, you have the Kurds, by the way, and you have many Iranian expats that want to fight against the regime. Let them do the fighting. Let them get inside and take over Tehran, and take over the country. And this is basically not so different than what happened in Iraq, though it took some time. Okay, in order to cripple this regime, take off its ability, nuclear ability, its ballistic missiles ability, but its ability to be a bad guy, just like they did to Saddam Hussein. And in the end result will be that either going to be Iran that doesn't want to attack its neighbor, or Iran doesn't have the capacity to do so. Okay, and this is why this war should continue until we get to this position, and those clocks are ticking. Naturally, they're ticking. Okay, bye.